Hey guys, I'm Rob Bass, and today I'm interviewing a good friend of mine. I actually, other than the one or two people I've interviewed, most of these people are my friends, which is odd to say, and I'm gonna do one of those about it.
Yep.
And is my friend Jeremy DeWitt. You might know that name if you're anywhere online in the geek communities. I feel like you are like, how many Facebook groups are you actually a part of? Like,
Maybe 9,000. I honestly I don't know, man. Ever since I discovered social media and then realized that it could be used for like nerddom, and rediscovering the past and like meeting with like-minded people. Like I have just been joining group after group and creating groups and grouping with groupies, and it's been a wonderful
you're
experience.
the king of the groupies groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as
But
cool though.
yeah, nah. And I used to be a lot more active. Now I'm more of a lurker because I just feel like my opinion probably doesn't matter as much as, I think it might or whatever, or whatever the case, or I'm just doing other things. But my attention span is pretty nutty these days. There's so much going on. I'm flipping from app to app and checking this out and this, you know, this toy group and this toy website and this, music, this and blah 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 that. And
Well, we
yeah,
will
I'm
get
all over
into
the place
all
now.
of that. So,
Yeah.
I guess for the uninitiated, like, let's just introduce yourself and stuff that you're a part of and what you kind of do. As a general, we'll get more specific later.
Okay. Well, I think the things that I'm most involved in these days is probably my podcasts. Um, I'm in My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, which is not safe for work stuff. It's a little nutty, a little fun. It's supposed to be about toys. But usually it's just us ripping on each other for an hour and a half. Um, then also the Podcasters of the Universe, which we've been doing for 7 years now, which is a big Masters of the Universe podcast. We were inspired by all the greats back in the day. Like I said, when I discovered all the social media and all that, boom, podcast was really my entryway into all this stuff. So we're not reinventing the wheel on either of those shows. We're just having a good time and wanting to talk about some crap. Other than that, I do some art stuff. Most notably lately, I've been doing stuff with Rob McCallum for his stuff for the action figure adventure and Nintendo 64 Quest and little things like that. What else? Some music. I've done a lot of theme songs for these up and coming YouTube podcasts and stuff, and my own. And yeah, other than that, I'm pretty chill, man. So
All right. Well, okay, so help me remember how did we connect?
okay. So definitely it was me being a creeper. You were on podcasts. I want to say the first one I remember would have been, oh, I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Was it Masters Cast? Were you on that ever?
Well,
You
Messier's
were a guest.
Chronicles?
It was Chronicles, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
Chris
Yeah.
Vince. Yeah.
Yes, yep, with Chris Vint. And so at the time there was like Roast Google, that, and then like a few more. And whatever I could get, I was just soaking it up. And yeah, and I'm like, who is this guy? He sounds angry. I don't know. But then like I realized that you're freaking hilarious. So I'm like, he's angry and hilarious. I might have to find so yeah, then I'm like
Yeah.
stalking you. And I don't know how we became friends and
Yeah.
all that online or whatever,
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
um through all the groups and stuff, yeah, all of a sudden we just started chatting.
It was funny to me because like when I got involved with the Pop Culture Network,
Hmm.
and from that, like people started finding me on Facebook. But
Yeah.
it's so funny because it's not technically my name on Facebook, but it's my wife at the time. My wife kind of now switched it around because she doesn't really do the Facebook, so she put my name
Right.
first and her name second now. So she switched it around. But it was so funny. It's like seeing like in the forums, like because I never did forums. I lurked like you did, but
Yep.
He-Man.org, I was lurking from like 2000, 2001. And like I didn't get involved with the forums until I had to physically get involved in forums because I was making videos.
Right.
And meeting like the people in the forums, I'm like, oh, these guys are pretty chill. All of a sudden I'm getting requests on Facebook, and I'm like, so you can see, like message people like, all right, who you? And it's like, oh, Pop Culture Network forums. Da, 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 da. I'm like, for now, we'll let it go. And So I feel like a lot of people met me through that, and a lot of people got to meet me through, like you said, roast couple dinner mostly.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah,
it's
that
so
was
funny.
a big one.
That was yeah. But I like the angry guy is kind of funny. Which is like
Or the funny guy who's kind of angry, one or the other, you know?
I don't they're mutually the same
Yeah,
thing, I
yeah,
feel.
yeah. About half
But
and half.
but that's the opposite I feel about you because it's like I've never seen you mad when I feel like there's times that you probably should be mad.
Well, so I do have my moments, of course, but a lot of my philosophy, wherever it came from, has been like, is it really, dude, is it worth freaking out about? Or like, could you let this roll off your shoulder? Like, would the situation be easier if you just chilled? Or, do you want to complicate things? And usually if there's like a roadblock, if there's something pushing against me, I'm like, I just want to go back to what I was doing a few minutes ago when it was awesome. So usually I'll be the one who like diverts, but there have been some times, you can ask my family. I have my moments.
Yeah, we're all allowed to get mad. I mean, I definitely, I do extra for people. I definitely, I'm trying to learn how not to, what is that called? Not get angry. I'm terrible at it. But as I get older, I've learned like, okay, what can I do? Especially, with my regular job, I have a more position of power. So it's
Yeah.
like I have to learn, and I'm working with, I have staff now that are very young, and
So
it's like,
so you're having to learn how to like suppress it,
no,
whereas
I had to learn how to talk to them. Like
so you had to alter the way that
yeah, because it's
yeah.
like I can't just say "suck it up, princess." You have to do
Right,
what you gotta.
exactly. That's that
I
was our
have to
generation.
I have to find out why are you in my office crying at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Hmm.
Someone didn't like your hair. Okay, that's
Yep.
well. And
Yep.
then I say, then I spent 40 minutes in my office like talking this worker down. I'm like, you're an adult.
Yeah.
How would you handle working at McDonald's? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. But so I'm learning how to read this. That's why with like all the new fans, like I see coming in for especially the Masters, or
Yeah.
I have to realize they're coming in blind. And they're not necessarily young fans. They're
Hmm.
people our age, around our age. And it's just that they were very casual back in the day. They knew
Right.
their vintage toys and they didn't know about 2000X. They weren't there for that. They
Yep.
weren't there for the stactions or the classics. And they just, because, not everybody's like us
Right.
who was reading Toy Fair magazine, and then going to the Facebook groups or not the Facebook groups, going to the forums and going to like MySpace pages and whatever
Right.
GeoCity shits and like being weird because that's what we are. Like
Being very weird.
no, it's what we
It's
you
it,
don't.
it it's weird because in the beginning, so you guys, I look at you guys and I mean, there's a whole bunch of quote unquote you guys that were in, like I guess that wave one of like OG He-Man,
Mhm.
nerdy people, and I'll speak specifically about He-Man because that's like the thing that got me back into everything. Um, so it had like you guys and like this big wave of like all these podcast guys. It turns out, oh my God, they're running, there's Val who's running He-Man.org, and there's a huge forum there. And it's like this exclusive thing where everybody's got their own name in there. And I'm like, what is this? And then everybody's talking about all the cartoons and there's all this lore and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's sweet. And then there's like kind of I don't know where I would fall in. I think I'm like probably like third generation or something because I think there's probably someone in between like me and like you guys,
Mhm.
but I can't be positive because I didn't follow it all. But
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's not so much so that I feel like it's the overlap because like
yeah.
you have the guys that founded it, which is
Hmm.
before me because like I said, I was a lurker. And like their knowledge came in from the 90s to early 2000s, which is like the James E. Talks, the Val,
Yes.
and people like that, Danielle and whatever. And then you have the generation that was my stuff, which was like Pixel Dan, me, and guys like that, which we came
Okay.
in that middle part. And then because of us, it brought that next group. I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
if I can equate it to something, I equate it to like there's the wrestling fan that watched old people wrestle for 55 minutes in like a carny show. Then that second generation watched Hulk Hogan and all those guys, and then
Yes,
the Attitude Era happened, and then that was that third group. Like that's
there
like,
you go.
but it that third group was still part of that second group because like yeah, I remember Hulk
Yeah,
Hogan and Jake the Snake, but I also like we're in that cusp,
yeah,
and I feel that's like where we are. Like you came maybe a little bit after because of me, but like I was lucky enough to have history for working in different fields like with comics and like
yeah, yeah,
and being like my wife will tell you nuts about this stuff and like it's not just about collecting, it's about knowing. I think when you want to know why the hell there's a hinge joint on some random toy.
right. Some crazy thing that that a normie would be like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
do you even
I don't
care?
need to know that. Like that's
Yeah.
not what I bought this fuck. I took the toy, I threw it in my bathtub, and I played with it. What are you doing? I was the kid that was like, I remember when I got like when Transformers came out in like '84.
Hmm.
I already had Transformers, but they weren't called Transformers. They were just like they were bootlegs
Yeah.
from Chinatown, but they were the same figures, like
Hmm.
the cassette man and stuff. I had that. So like I remember looking when I got my Transformers, and of course there was no internet. We just thought this was a new line.
Yeah.
And I was the idiot that turned it around and I saw Takara 1974. And I'm like, well, that's a misprint. Who the hell's Takara? Why is it
Exactly.
1974? It's 1984. What are they, idiots? And then
Yeah.
realized, like, no, idiot, think about it. Then I started thinking, like, wait, yeah, I had some of these toys from before. And I took the ones that had that and I saw the dates and it was like these stamps. And like what kid does that? Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
us, that's what
Yeah.
evolved us into like the fan base. Like I think I was telling my daughter something. I forgot what exactly it was. It was a random useless fact. And I brought it up to my daughter and she stops me, looks me in the face and goes, "Do you tell mom that stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for the last 30 years I've told her all this stuff." She's like, I'm like, just say you're interested. Shut up. I listen to your crap. Like you pull out what voice actor does
Yeah.
like 18 different voices in
Exactly. Like
Japanese. I
humor me,
understand.
damn it.
Yeah.
I
But
humored you for years.
suck it up for video. Suck it
Yeah.
up, princess. Like, hey.
Yep.
But I think that's so cool to see like you came in and from I mean, like our groups and like obviously you were collecting before that though, right?
So I was, but like not actively. So like I would still like check out toys or whatever, and I still had some from when I was a kid, but a lot of them got like my mom threw a bunch away, which was stupid. But and then I like partied and I did all this stuff, and so I wasn't really hardcore into toys and stuff. I would get something occasionally. A girlfriend would buy me like a Ninja Turtle thing or something. It's like, oh, that's neat. Put it aside, and you never think about it. But then it was the podcasts and um the talking, of the He-Man stuff all the time, and I'm playing catch up. There were hundreds, of podcasts that I had never heard. So I'm doing all that. Oh my God, these people care about this and this and this, and they're collecting this and this. And I'm like, I think I want to start collecting. And then I would start, making friends online by being the weird creeper, the lurker guy, and going, friend request, and then, occasionally, a little comment here or there, and then maybe I got the balls to message somebody and be like, I really liked your show. I just wanted to say thank you and blah blah blah. And eventually I started learning and getting kind of nutty. So yeah, I think I probably started like really collecting in like ooh, 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. I know it was around the beginning of, maybe it was like the second wave or something of like classics, third wave, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly when that started.
Third
Was it
wave, 2010 was third wave because it's two. Oh,
okay?
okay, I
It
guess
was
technically
2008, right?
2008 was like with
They
the
had
King
King Grayskull,
Grayskull,
right?
and then January 2009 is when it kind of really started.
Yeah.
But so I
Yeah.
guess technically second wave full when it was going to be a official thing. Yeah.
Like I remember going, so of course around that time, so my youngest daughter was born in '06. So, of course, she likes toys. And I'm like, bro, there's toys out there. So, and nerdy toys too. One of her first action figures was, Donatello from the 2007, CGI movie, and April Panillo and stuff. So I was able to start kind of like reliving my childhood through her, even though they were newer figures. But I'm like, well, let's find the older figures. Around that time, everybody's getting rid of some of their stuff. They don't care anymore, And I'm like, I'll take it. And I just started to amass a huge collection, and I found out about classics through the podcast, but then I remember going to Toys R Us with the kid and seeing those two packs, the He-Man, Superman, the Skeletor, and Lex Luthor, and I'm like, these are awesome. Whoa, $30. I would never pay $30 for a two pack of figures, which of course is absolutely ridiculous now because of the amount, $30 is just, it's a fart in the wind. Like you're saying, that's cheap. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's basically when it started. All of a sudden, me and the kids started going to, Toys R Us every single Saturday, and we'd check some stuff out. And then the Ninja Turtle 2012 show came out, and it was over. We were both collecting. I'd get two figures of those every single time because one had to be me for me and one for her. And yeah, garage
That's
sales were great at the time. Like those have dried up now, but
it's cool to have something that you can share. So it's
yes.
like for me, my daughter was such a girly girl when she was younger.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it hurt a lot because it's like she liked Mario, she liked that stuff, it was great. But like she was super into Shopkins. And it's like,
Oh yeah. Yep.
well, as the collector brain, you
Yeah.
got I spent more money than I should have on Shopkins.
Yeah.
Oh, she was also into blazing the monster machines, and those things with die-cast metal cars. So my brain's like, that is the shit we'll get. And with Toys R Us still existing, had it, and we still had them a couple of years ago. And then one of my mother's coworkers' kids, because my daughter don't give a shit no more about it.
Yeah.
This kid was into it, and I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Here's this
Guess what I
giant, like
got?
this is like 50 pounds of blazing die-cast metal, everything. So it's cool that you share it and you pass it along, but it's kind of like having that moment to share. Like my daughter loved toys for a long time, and being a reviewer, what helped me was like they would send me
Yeah.
stuff to review, which was great because it was very easy to get the stuff she liked sent to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy getting the stuff that I liked
Right. So all of a
sent
sudden
to
you're
me
learning a lot about
because
her stuff and
Hasbro don't give shit away. Like I'm a reviewer. That's good for you. And it's like Mattel once in a blue would send you something, and
yeah.
but they like the bigger channels, whatever. So it's kind of like so it really kind of sucked for me, is because like I'd get companies to send me stuff, so it'd be like once in a while I get that really random cool thing, but
Hmm.
it wouldn't be something exactly like when I got the little arcade machines, very cool. Like,
Yeah.
but like I wasn't getting like I really would have loved to have gotten at least like three or four classics to review.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, when we do Toy Fair, they give you for free, like,
Yeah.
but Mattel don't do that no more. Lego would give me stuff all the time, and I can't do Lego.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Yeah. It's
I
not my thing either. The kid loves it, but yeah,
you know,
it was
they
even when I was a kid, it was kind of a last resort toy.
It's just weird because like I get they have a diehard fan base. Hot
Oh,
Wheels
for
and
sure.
The Hot Wheels and the Legos fans are like generational.
Yeah.
Like, obviously because you got to think about how old is Lego, how old is Hot Wheels and
Hmm. Yeah,
Matchbox, and like those collectors are 4 or 5 generations of people, as opposed to our
exactly.
collectors stuff is only us, and then
Yeah.
maybe a little bit before. So. But those fan bases are so diehard and they love every little thing that comes out. Like their history and like knowing that Lego don't make military green color blocks. I'm like, oh, good for you because like, but like it's like their thing, and like, they
Yeah.
would send you lots of stuff. But it's like I feel like, now it's like we have these groups of new fans that are coming in. I love seeing it because it's like that helps these lines grow and seeing. But let's be real. Did we think He-Man was going to have what almost three fucking toy lines
Yeah.
at one time? Like
Dude,
Masterverse, Origins, and the CG show. It's like,
Well, and now you add in the cartoon origins, and then the vintage Masterverse line that's going to come out. Then you have the Mega Constructs, and then you
Oh
have
yeah.
the Funkos, and then I mean you go everywhere, and it's it was not that long ago that we were like, it would be nice, to just have like something else, because I think these classics is going to be it. And then all of a sudden it was like everywhere. And now it's a bit overwhelming, all the Ninja Turtle and He-Man stuff out there, because
I
those are my
mean,
two top ones. So,
those two franchises have every right to cross over more than anything else.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I always tell people, if you look at the history, when Masters died, Turtles rose.
Yeah.
And obviously, some people who worked on Masters actually worked on the Turtles line,
Yeah, Mark Taylor.
Mark Taylor. But I feel like what's crazy is the similar style.
Hmm.
Instead of it being fantasy and sci-fi, it's like ninja and sci-fi. So it's still got that traditional rule like sword and sorcery. It's
Yeah.
just that it's more like Eastern based and
Yeah.
like you know European based, whatever He-Man shit was. Um, but like they have so much correlation. Like there's so much
Yeah.
crossover. It makes sense that that was the next line of that, and
They
that.
both of those would just do ridiculous things and not bat an eye and put it
Mhm.
out there, and you just accept it because I mean, yeah, it was maybe
Yeah.
different, it was weird, but like that was the time, man.
That's so funny when you think about that and you compare it to what the G.I. Joe fans get. We'll get mad with like the neon colors came
Oh
out, like
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
gone too fucking far. It's like Cobra Commander made a weather dominator.
Yeah.
But that was acceptable. But neon green Duke bothers you.
Yeah.
It's like
So weird.
it's like and that's where the G.I. Joe fan base is crazy because they have that guys like I stop at 1989.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
do
yeah,
anything
they're
after.
serious about it for
And it's
sure.
it's crazy. It's because it's like, but with He-Man fans, like we would just have I'll take everything.
Yeah.
And Turtle fans, same thing. Like, Turtle fans, well, the Turtles will always be in stock, and then they were always like, here's a dog that is I don't know, fireman. I don't know, fucking yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They throw it
Yeah.
out there, like,
It was literally anything. Just throw
yeah.
it on the wall if it sticks. Oh, okay, there you go.
And there was nothing ever. You never said no to it because it all made sense.
Yeah, and well, and there was a transitional for me anyway, there was a transitional toy line between the two, and that was the real Ghostbusters. And that had a lot of it was like it still had like a lot of human stuff, but at the same time, it's like once again, they had your slime and your weird stuff, and there was science, and there was so it was a good mix of that stuff, and that's I got into that stuff hard, and I'll tell you, man, that stuff really influenced a lot of my like early teen art and stuff. It was living
Well,
inside of me and came out like, at that
I
age.
think there's a couple of things that opened up for me, like the goth, the 90s goth kids.
Yeah.
Um, Ghostbusters horror element
Yeah.
in the animation, which was above and
Phenomenal.
beyond.
Yeah.
uh, It influenced so many. Like you see so many goth kids like that I knew, especially in the 90s. Ghostbusters they loved.
Hmm.
Go the real Ghostbusters they loved, and like they also, of course, was that of course with the rise of Tim Burton with the Beetlejuice
Sure.
and
Yeah.
but like that line was so off the wall because it's all right, it's the cartoon show. It's not the live action. It's the
Yep.
cartoon, but like it's still the live action. It's like it's still the same four guys. You still get the
Yeah.
car. You still got
Yep.
Slimer. You still have everything that you know. But that line was so creative in how it took what would be so simple just to say like they came in plastic ghosts. But no, each guy comes with a little ghost.
Yeah.
Cool. Here's a giant ghost. Well, that guy's mouth is open. You put slime in it, you squeeze his ass, and a big bubble comes out.
Yep.
Why? Because we can do that. And
Because
that's
we
it's
can.
and it
Yeah.
has a tongue that goes back and forth. And I know that unlocks a whole bunch of early people's like hentai fetishes. Was this giant monster with the tongue
Right.
going back and forth. And it just had that people's horror and all that horror element for all the horror, especially the horror fans that came later. Like you'd see like a lot of Japanese horror that came out in the early
Yeah.
80s that was off the wall. And then like the 90s and on had really crazy horror movies that was
Yeah.
really those underground ones. the Turtle monster from the toy line. Like that right there is someone's fear. I know it's probably my wife's biggest fear. She hates Train Spotting for that reason. Like it's a great movie, but she won't watch that one scene with
Yep,
the
yep.
turtle.
Oh, I get it. Ugh.
But like that ghost monster, like there's so much in that line and
Yeah,
creativity. Like I think the creativity of the three major lines. Like you said, it's a good point to bring up the Ghostbusters. Like from the He-Man and how it started simple,
yeah,
but the creativity where they started doing that crossover once you got to the Snake Men and you got to the Horde and then you got to these characters and then the Ghostbusters like right out the gate the most noble thing with the first four figures everything that line came up with
yep,
was engineering like there's so much engineering
yeah.
involved the Turtles started off very simple but as soon as they got some money they're like all right
Wacky action, and yeah,
fucking
it's starting to go nuts.
this and we can do whatever you want and I
Yeah,
think that's those three lines are big and that's why you see to this day that like those three franchises, other than the ones that Hasbro owns,
yeah.
have found their way to succeed.
I've seen all, I mean, granted the He-Man stuff that's been in the stores is Origins, but it's totally based on Vintage, where you've had actual re-releases of Turtles, which is going strong right now, and Real Ghostbusters. I mean, I don't think the Real Ghostbusters is doing strong,
No.
but they definitely that whole first wave and then and a couple extras, you know. And it's weird too because all three of those lines had like one specific connecting thing, at least for me. And each one of them had like slime. There was slime and there was the
Yeah.
ecto, you know, the ectoplasm, or there was the ooze. But literally all three, it was like there's a gross factor to all three of them. And like, you know, just something great about that.
And it's so funny, each slime is completely different from the other. The
Yeah.
slime that was used for the horde for the slime pit
Hmm.
was nowhere near the consistency of what you got from the Ghostbusters,
No,
which is nowhere the consistency what you have from the Turtles. It's like
no.
you think it would just be one manufacturer, but
Yep. Nope.
no,
Nope.
absolutely not.
They were getting a little nutty with it.
I can attest that the horde slime will never come out of a rug, and
Yep.
your parents will hate you, and the
Yeah.
rug will be gone.
I can't
Uh,
tell you how many times that slime, I would bring it outside with me and run around and drop it like on the ground and like pine needles and dirt would get it. And I'd try to pick out as much as I could, but I'd still, I remember for the longest time I had like a, you know, the little trash can filled with this dirty ass slime with one muscle figure just stuffed in there for, it was in the fridge for like a month.
I just love that, and then like how like in my when my daughter was growing up, slime became popular again.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
DIY slime, this slime, that slime, and you sit there going,
Yeah. All the money my kids spent on that shit.
you sit there going, first, I'm a bitch. And I don't like getting dirty. I don't like,
I used to. That ended a long time
oh
ago.
no, I was always like the bitch. I never like I
Oh,
don't
okay, all right.
like we go to have ribs. I will not eat ribs with my hands.
Okay.
We're at, like at home maybe, but like if
Hmm.
we're at a restaurant, like I'm not getting ribs. Why?
Yeah.
They look good. That's good for you. I'm not touching them. So I'm that person. So like when my daughter wanted to make the slime, she's like, Dad, I'm like, yeah, no,
I'll
okay,
watch you.
go to your mother. She'll
Yeah.
help you.
Yep.
But like so it's so funny, like I would have that slime and everyone who came over, that slime was unopened. And then always someone would open up the slime. And it's like you think I would always learn my lesson. I never learned my lesson. So I love to see that these collections and these stuff that you have. And like I'm so cool that you got into it when you did, because you
Yeah.
still came in early enough to start collecting where it wouldn't have been overtly expensive
No, and
to a
that was
degree.
the wonderful part. I'm always going to have nostalgia for like 10 years ago, you know, because going to thrift stores, going to yard sales, just asking around with friends, there was such an abundance of 80s, 90s, early 90s, between, okay, so we'll say late 70s to early 90s toys just filling up these areas. And also toy trading online. That for me was absolutely huge. I joined a group way early in the day called TMNT Lives Forever, and that one had I met a lot of friends through there, and I ended up becoming an admin, and now it's basically I run the group. But it's not very active anymore. It's kind of nutty, but regardless, back then it was like toy trading was daily. It was like, I have this, 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 and this. What do you got? And it would be like, well, I have this, 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 and this. Oh, well, I would like that. And all of a sudden, I went from having two shelves in my basement to having an entire basement filled with crap. And granted, there was money spent, but overall, like it was a cheap collection to amass. Not like it is now, but you don't find that stuff anymore.
No.
Occasionally, but not like it was.
Like when we had the Pop Culture Network, we would do Christmas and we would do like gift sharing on the forum. So like
Hmm.
you get this guy would get whatever. And so like but the guys in the pop culture would like send you stuff and it'd be a big package. I remember I was at that time working on a book of like I was wanting to publish an unauthorized Transformers history book, but I
Okay.
also wanted to fill it with more like really weird knowledge and more like factoids and more than like, whoa, 19, like I don't give a fuck about that. I want to teach like
Right.
I want to have fun like going over the history why Optimus Prime sometimes has a mouth and sometimes has a plate over his face. So
Right.
like I would go over that or like how the original Beast Wars actually wasn't the original Beast Wars comic that came with the toys legitly said Optimus Prime and Megatron. It wasn't the distant future. It was just
Right.
them as those, and people never believed you. Then you pull out the receipt, like yeah, just scan. And so like
Right.
I figured I was going to write a unauthorized book based on that, and so I was filming out. So at that time, though, when we did the Pop Culture Network, I always got like knockoff Transformers to like Gold Bots or like Robotech toys and like stuff to review. So like
Yeah.
that was given to me from like guys like Pixel Dan and stuff, and like we would
Right.
trade back and forth. But like for me as a collector, my whole life, like the first thing I bought as a collector was getting back my Brave Star collection.
There you
I
go.
did that in like 96. I paid $60 and I got everything. And I had
Wow.
there was nothing missing from the collection. I had
Yeah.
everything. And so I had it for years. And I'd had it, and I live in an apartment. So like I don't have the room to be doing what I was doing, especially living with parents and my sister and in a just stupid apartment. Like you don't have the room to have any balls or rights to display shit. And I
Right.
did. I displayed the whole Brave Star set. And then eventually ended up inside a closet. And
Hmm.
like and then I saw it was getting like neglected. And I was like mad at myself because like, all right, here's this thing I wanted to. I spent my money at $60. That's a lot of
Yeah.
money, especially like in
You'd kill to pay
1996.
60 bucks for all that now.
Can't even get 3030s. You couldn't get 3030s harness for
Yeah,
$60.
exactly.
So like I actually gave it to my landlord's son as a gift because I felt it was being wasted in my apartment.
Oh man.
And so now here I am doing Brave Star again. Like, what am I doing? I'm like,
Yeah.
I had the whole fucking
Yep.
thing.
I had it at one point.
It was so stupid. And it's
Yeah.
like when you see like I was collecting from then, and so like my biggest addiction became when I got into Toy Fair magazine.
Okay.
And like in the 90s, you had Wizard magazine, they made
Yep.
Toy Fair magazine.
Yep.
And Toy Fair ran a one issue that said toys that you will never own. I took that as a personal threat. And it was the Robots in Disguise Transformers, but it didn't come out in America, so it was just called Car Robots. And it was
Okay.
like 1999. And I said, "Yo, is the Optimus Prime a fire truck? That looks badass." I'm like, "The hell you to tell me I can't get this?"
Yeah. You're not.
I took,
That's not happening.
and the problem is that I shouldn't have because I paid a lot of money to import before eBay existed
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get those figures, and then like it got so popular that like 2 years after I started spending all the money, they came to America.
Ah, figures.
So I kind of got mad. I wanted to sue
Yeah.
Toy Fair because you told me
Yeah.
I
You told
couldn't
me I
have
couldn't.
these. So
Now.
you went after my manhood, and so but I never learned my lesson. So like every so often it would be like I'd get that. I got into the 2000X line, and that was easier to get.
Yeah.
And then you start getting like the soda toys and like you're gonna do this, and then you find out like underground companies. Like I was getting into like indie guys like the Dunny figures and like the
Oh
collectible
yeah.
market.
Yep. Yep.
So there was a line called Stickfist, and I was just obsessed with Stickfist. because it was this guy, he made it was a blank figure, and it was like black, and you like he was on a tree, and you cut him out and you make him, and they come with sticker sheets, they came with backpacks, and then they started making like then Hasbro bought it, and then it became big, and like
Yeah, I
so.
was gonna say those sound familiar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still have literally the whole entire collection because I was obsessed with that because like I love the idea that you take a toy that's just pieces of a toy and you can customize it and make it and
Yeah.
they snap in together and they're all interchangeable. So like I've always had that, but I never got to have that luxury like you did where like I came in and you could trade because I always had to deal with people wanting money because
Yeah.
there was no like
Yeah.
friendship like I'll give you this blah, blah, blah. It's like I always had to deal with like how much you got.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was pretty lucky too, because in all I don't really do much toy trading online anymore unless it's like somebody I know or whatever. But back then I was really like trustworthy. And so I really only got burned like a couple times from people. So out of like, hundreds of trades that I did, I probably only got burnt like twice or something. And so it was pretty good. But yeah, I mean it got a little bit ridiculous to where I'm at the point now where, I'm having to go, well, I should probably get rid of a few things. It's a little ridiculous because when I first started, it was like, okay, I like Spider-Man. Okay. I was into comics in the early 90s, and that was probably my transition between, toys, and then went to comics, and then, partying, and then back to toys and comics. But so of course I got into Wolverine and Spider-Man and stuff like that. So I had a passing like for those things. I liked the movies and I'd wear the t-shirts and stuff, but um I didn't really have a lot. Maybe I had one Spider-Man figure. Okay, well, I go to a garage sale. Well, look, they have a bunch of Spider-Man stuff. But what is it? There's a little McDonald's toy. It's Spider-Man, or like a little squirty Venom or something, or whatever. But it was Spider-Man. So all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I guess I'm starting a Spider-Man collection. I guess I'm starting a Batman collection. And it ballooned and it turned into, this chaos I have down here now. This, action figure museum.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
I do have to say, I do apologize for that giant box that's just sitting right over there. It
Oh,
belongs to you. And it's literally filled with video games, toys, and DVDs
oh,
and
I guarantee
Blu-rays
there's some
and
killer stuff in there, man.
oh yeah, I was like, I don't need this. What am I gonna do with it? And I'm like, I'm giving it to Jeremy. It's just sitting there, just that I had to deal with the shit. So it will go out. It keeps yelling at me. The box just looks at me. My cat lays on it like, hey asshole,
Yeah, hey,
this should
remember
be out of
Jeremy?
here.
Yeah,
Jeremy
that's
needs
funny.
this. I'm like, he'll get it. I swear to God, it's taped up and never been opened since I literally showed you it open like a year ago. It's
Uh,
been taped like that. So the tape is pretty good, I have to admit.
yeah,
So hopefully it gets to you
yeah,
eventually.
that's awesome.
Um, but like, see, for me, I had a different thing with comics. Like I didn't get into comics until 86. So I was like 9. And
Okay.
my first comics actually were the mini comics for the Masters when I was a kid.
Yep, same.
Uh but my dad always used to read, like, tell me stories as a kid about comic
Mhm.
books because he used to read comics when he was a kid. So when I was a little kid, he would just retell me the stories. So I imagined in my head what superheroes look like, and he
Okay.
would describe them in a way. So like when the Spider-Man Amazing Friends came out, and I got to see what like Iceman actually
You're
looks
like,
like,
that's
or
wrong.
I wasn't too far off, but like, little like Jack Frost, a little more icy guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like and learning what Captain America is and like I have these characters. And it wasn't until like I was like 9, I went to a candy store the day after my birthday. I had some like birthday money, and I turned around and I was like, is is that a comic book? Because I didn't know comic books was still even being made. I just
Right.
I didn't have comic book stores. There was nothing in my neighborhood. And I turned around and on the rack next to the like the rock magazines, like and then the porn was comics. So it was like there was like no in between. And so it was like I
Who
picked up
needs
the
boobies when you got Spider-Man?
actually I think the first comic book I picked up was like an Iron Man. I didn't even know who Iron Man was. Like I didn't know
Right.
Iron Man. My dad maybe told me about Iron Man. I came
Yeah.
up home and I showed him like it's a comic book. And he's like, it's like 60 cents. He's like, here's $10. I'm like, and
Ooh, all
I just
right.
bought a
Yeah.
bunch more. And that kind of got me the comics where so much then as time went on, I didn't know you could work in jobs like that. I
Yeah.
didn't know you could be a writer. I didn't know you could do any. I don't know why. I guess as a kid you don't. think you
No,
could do
yeah,
anything.
you don't really
Yeah.
go
It's not
deep and think about all the gears
well,
that turn.
we didn't like if you think about how we grew up, we didn't have the families that did that stuff. My father worked two jobs, my mom worked a job.
Yep,
Everyone we knew worked factories or
yep,
whatever.
yep,
So that's who you're going to be.
yeah.
And then I remember I wrote a story one time. My dad's like, "Why don't you do writing?" I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "Become a writer. Do you ever thought about doing that?" I'm like, "You could do that." And I was like, so my obsession with comics became like for a long time. My comic book obsession was way bigger than toys.
Yeah.
And at one point I had like 45,000 comics.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
I had a lot. I didn't get rid of most of them until my wife was pregnant with our
Yeah.
daughter because I
That's
realized,
crazy.
oh, you see this room?
Yeah.
This
We
would
have
be
to
great
house a
for
human.
this should be where crib goes, not where boxes of comic books I don't read. And so like Midtown Comics was one of the biggest comic book stores like in New York. And I think pretty much most of the states. Um, I knew the guys that own it. I said, "Hey, come get these." And so they took everything. I think I kept like 5,000 comics. Then I had water damage and I lost all of them. I lost
Oh,
everything. Yeah, I also lost my He-Man collection in that process too. Like my
oh,
vintage He-Man were like packed away with it and it all got
oh,
destroyed.
you
And
gotta stop. I'm getting woozy.
yeah, it kind of sucked because like then you try to like find what you could save.
Yeah.
And I think I have 100. Like I had books on, so I have like trades and like specialty books because
Yeah.
they weren't with those.
Yeah.
But comic book wise, I have a stack like this. So all my vintage He-Man went. Um, all the comic books went. The only thing I could say was Crystal's like small collection of Vampirella and like the Max and some random books
Yeah.
like that. But I lost everything. So like my desire for comics just died.
Yeah.
And like it just went right in the it just went
Well, I guess
in
I'm done with that.
well because it's like you spent your life having that identity and I worked in the comic book business for a short time
Yeah.
and as much as you love it, you felt like, all right, I needed that gut punch to realize like that's over.
You weren't gonna leave that job on your own. You needed them to let you go.
It's exactly kind of the point. Like, and when it comes to toy collecting, like I would go through these phases.
Yeah.
Like I had 800 unique pieces of Transformer toys.
Yeah.
And by 2007, I sold 800 unique pieces of Transformer toys.
Ah, it's crazy. I haven't hit that point yet. There's some stuff where like so when that 2012 Turtle Show came out, I wanted every single figure. That was the first line ever where I was like, I'm gonna be a completist. I mean, I wanted other stuff, but I could actually do it this time because it was coming out and I could find it. Of course, I discovered how difficult some of those could be, and it was, kind of crazy, but um I have never lost that completist mentality since then. So that has become a problem. Multiple He-Man lines coming out all at once. Well, I need every single figure. I need to, blah, blah, blah. And at some point it just becomes really overwhelming and I have to like find out where my line is, like where I can just let go of stuff. Like I don't need everything, but it's really hard to let go because now they're my friends. They live at my house with me and I'm not just going to kick them out, you know? They got all the dust and everything. Like they're my roommates.
It's easier, I feel, when you're just a one collector. Like
Yeah. Hmm.
Mike Petrick. Mike is just a He-Man guy.
Yes.
So he has the completest He-Man collection, right? He just that's his
Makes
thing.
way more sense too.
Right. It's hard for people like us because when you find like you're an artist, I
Yeah.
write, I used to do all kinds of stuff. So my creativity has a problem with like being I wanted to be a completist with certain lines, then I realized, no, I kind of like this character or that.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me. Like if I didn't do it with comic book toys, like I had all these comics, but I was a Captain America fan. So my obsession was Cap. So I bought
Hmm.
everything Captain America until he got popular. And luckily for me, that's when everything went to shit.
Yeah.
Because I lost all the books and everything. But up to that point, it was very easy to collect Cap because since he wasn't popular like how he became after 2011,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was easier to collect. It
And
wasn't as many things.
I
Uh,
envy people like that, man. Like,
yeah,
there's Ninja Turtle collectors where like
that's it.
guy only collects Michelangelo. That's it. He'll get it'd be different. lines, different companies or whatever, but it's just one thing. That's what he collects. And it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Where it's like me, I'm like, oh, that RoboCop looks kind of neat. I remember RoboCop. I love RoboCop. And
That's
all
a
of a sudden
problem.
now I have one. And then I'm like, well, I need the glow in the dark one. He's sweet. And oh, well, I might as well grab the ones I had as a kid,
Mhm.
oh, well, they had a glow in the dark one then too. Blah, 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 blah. So
Hmm.
all of a sudden now I have a RoboCop collection. I'm like, damn it.
It's my wife says I have a fetish for like cowboy lines. So like I'll say a cowboy action figure, it'll be like a skeleton cowboy. My wife's like, you want that, don't you?
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
what yeah, what is wrong with me? I have
How
like
do you know?
I have a type apparently. Just like with Brave Star, like, I have like
Yeah.
apparently I have this very like futuristic steampunkish obsession cowboy fetish. So
Okay.
it's like Sundown from
I know what to
Cops.
dress up like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we see each other next then.
Rio Blast is Sundown from the Cops, Brave Star, and then like anything that falls in that line, I'm like, ooh, like I'm looking
Yeah.
at that Jonah Hex from like McFarlane going, like
Might
that horse.
yeah.
Nice horse. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, you don't need to do that. I also Cowboy B. I had was a Trigun from the anime Trigun, had the Gazelle. Gazelle was a big weird cowboy cyborg dude, and I have him. It's like
Yeah.
I didn't need him, but I got him.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like that's okay if I was just doing that. But like you said, RoboCop. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I've because I need to eat food. I haven't bought Haya. Like Haya Toys is RoboCop line is just would be the perfect RoboCop toy line to own
They got some
because
great
that
stuff. There's short scale.
yeah, that's good scale because then you can like take all the vehicles from like Playmobil would
Yeah.
scale perfectly with that shit. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh
there you
yeah,
go.
they
Yeah.
made like a cop car that looks just like the OCP cop car, and you could just customize it with a sticker. And then your brain starts going like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. But like you buy that, like and there's this new toy company, I forget who they're called, but they have this 10-inch samurai tiger dude as
Okay.
fur toys or something like that. And they make a whole line. They have like a samurai rabbit guy, which is like really lanky and tall, like a jackrabbit looking dude. And it's just this gorgeous piece of art, but it's an action figure, and it's like, oh, I want that. And you're like
Yeah.
sitting there going because they're like I think that's the problem. Is like you want to cherry pick, but like yeah, okay. But that's a cool figure, and it could probably fit with like these figures on a
Yeah.
shelf, or they can
Yeah.
do like like Masters go with Masters, but if they had like a Thundercats or like a whatever, that kind of goes together, like
Yep.
and this samurai ninja tiger dude, I could put with Usagi Yojimbo because that's where your brain goes, like
Right.
ooh. And I have all this stuff I bought from Japan. They actually I could build a set where they sit and have like Japanese tea, and I'm like, yeah. Dude, you're
Uh
47. What are you fucking doing? You're like,
yeah.
so like you don't. I just wish like Big Bad Toy Store had save for later, which they don't do, which is smart because then you're like it's always in your cart and you get
Sure.
emails like, but you never
Sure.
commit. So like, Amazon, my Amazon list is like 72 pages. I'm like save for later, a wish
Yeah.
list. I'll
Yeah.
wish list the shit out of it until hopefully it's out of stock. So,
Yep.
but
Oh, well, I
but
guess I don't have to worry about that. Whew.
well, you do that, then you're like, is it somewhere else though?
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Well, I did want that at one point. Maybe I should
someone's
look
on here.
over
And you're
here.
hoping it gets cheaper. And it's one of those rare toys that just it will never be cheaper.
Yep.
Like I had always wanted this third party guy made a Power Master Optimus Prime attachment for any Optimus Prime figure you owned.
Hmm.
It could actually like customize to fit to be this like gigantic Power Master. And I was like, oh. And you're sitting there, like I sat on that for like 3 or 4 years and I didn't commit. And then like and then it just kind of like became one of those very rare things that it just got forgotten.
Yeah.
And then now you can't find it anywhere. It's not on eBay. It was a toy line that existed from like 2008 to 2010. It's gone.
She gone.
But it's still here. It's still here. It's still in the
Yep.
back
Yep.
of my mind.
I still remember.
Like the guy that did the Chris Star action figure when Classics came out. I forgot who made it. He made a classic scale Crystal figure.
Okay.
He called it the Crystal Prince or whatever. And I didn't know about it because we didn't have Facebook groups or places that would religiously talk about underground indie guys.
Yeah.
So this guy, there was no kicks. The Kickstarter didn't exist, so he just kind of funded it on his own, kind of like how Spy Monkey Creation did stuff on his own.
Yeah.
And the figure came out, and I saw it after the orders, the potential pre-orders happened. I was like, "Oh shit, I want that!" And so like, and it just it's gone. Whoever owns it, those people will never getting rid of it.
Oh,
It just
crazy.
doesn't
Yeah.
exist. And it was, I think I saw one on eBay once and it sold for like $1,000.
Yeah. You're like, well, I guess I'm good.
And then Hasbro was like, wait like 10 years, I got you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Uh,
so, all right. So let's talk about, because that was a good ramble. Let's talk about Podcast the Universe.
okay.
And then about it, who's on it with you, and how did you guys decide that? I know you said because of us, but like, how did you really commit to wanting to officially do it?
Okay. So, of course, listening to all those podcasts back in the day, there would be times when you'd want to chime in or whatever. And of course you can't because you're just listening to other people talk about it. But you know, it definitely, it was seeded in me. And I knew what I liked about podcasts and I knew what I didn't like. You listen to this guy and like he's great, he's super entertaining. You listen to this guy, he says some weird stuff, and really, he doesn't keep your interest. Uh Kevin Smith was huge for me at that time too. His podcasts were just it was like religion for me for a minute. But so anyway, so I always kept that and I always kept listening. Whenever, any would come out, especially like Roast Google, that was my favorite. Um, but through the toy community, there's a huge one here in Michigan, and I didn't realize it. But I started going to, Comic Cons and I started going to toy shows and um there was this show in town. It was the first year, and it was going to be run by Pete McCarthy, who's podcast buddy of mine now. He's in My Wife's Gonna Kill Me, but this was his first toy show, and it was called MesquiCon. And at that show, I had actually done a trade. We didn't do it physically yet, but I did a trade beforehand and said, I'll bring this, you bring that. So I met this guy, Travis, through that. And then through Travis and Pete, I met Steven Bishotti. So all three of these guys, turns out they were doing a podcast, which is the My Wife's Gonna Kill Me podcast. So I started listening to them. I started hanging out with them. Turns out Steve was a huge Masters of the Universe fan. And it was like we instantly bonded on that. Turns out Steve was also the head of the DPW in my town. So it's like, and my town is a 1 square mile by my city here. So like we started really seeing each other a lot and like getting to know each other and talking about toys. And um I had went to a yard sale and it was a freak thing. I found an inbox Spirit of Snake Mountain, with a Spirit of Snake Mountain written across the front. Found a Snake Mountain in box vintage and a Castle Grayskull vintage, but that had a lot of water damage to the box, but it was intact. There was everything there. And it turns out he wanted the Castle Grayskull. So I said, sounds good. I can part with it. I have a complete one, this and that. I'll keep the crappy box, which I just finally sold last week. But so I go to Steve's, I bring this, and he goes, what do you want to trade? This and that. He's got a bunch of extra classics, and I'm seeing his giant collection in his basement, and I'm just like, this is so cool. And he goes, before I leave, he goes, hey man, what do you think about like doing like a He-Man podcast? Because at the time, I'll tell you, there wasn't a lot going on. You're holding your breath, waiting for a roast Google. There was a couple others going on, but just stuff we didn't really listen to as much. Um, and it was basically like we wanted to fill that void. So we started talking, and it was like, let's do this. All right, I don't know what we're gonna do, what we're gonna talk about, and but let's just start from the beginning, And so we started from the beginning, how we got into it, blah blah blah. And since he already had the equipment for My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me, it was easy. We just showed up at the shop where they recorded. It was actually a vape shop, and now it's a hair salon. But yeah, in the back room there, and me and him just started rapping about it, and we just started laughing, and we realized we were a lot alike and had, you know, this childlike, sense of humor, which all of us really kind of do. But there was just this bond, like we were making each other giggle, and so we kept doing it, and we've been going 7 years strong now. We don't put it out like every single 2 weeks like we used to, but we try to keep up as best we can. But yeah,
See, talking shit
seven
about
years, man.
roast school dinner coming out so infrequently. Hey,
Yeah,
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 you can't keep this 2 week schedule. What the
yeah,
hell?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Could be the signal of the end, but it's gotten to the point where we've gone to PowerCon and stuff like that and just other toy shows, and we've met a lot of people, and it was literally the same thing that I was doing, reaching out to all you guys, going, you guys are awesome, thank you for this and that, you helped me through this and I really enjoyed it, and all of a sudden people are doing that to us. And it was like, at first you're like, oh my God, I don't feel worthy. But like at the same time, you're like, well, you just went through this like not that long ago. So like it totally makes sense. And so I don't know, it became a really freaking awesome thing. And it's that because of that podcast and our chemistry on there, those guys ended up a few years ago going, hey, I think you should probably be on My Wife Is Going to Kill Me because you make the perfect fourth guy type of thing. So been doing that now for a couple few years too. So
I see like when you see that it's more not just talking with someone about stuff. It's getting those connections with people that
yeah,
it's affecting people positively.
yeah,
And that's something what makes it more fun.
absolutely.
You could do all you want about doing a show. If no one's listening, then you're just talking to yourself. I feel like when you're out there, you have a point to make, but you're having fun and you have good chemistry with somebody. It's just a whole nother level.
And we have the luxury of being able to do it in person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and which online is great, but that's, as far as I knew, that's how people did it. They just did it online, because there's people from all over the world.
Yeah.
But like me and Steve, literally, he worked in my town. Like he lives 15 minutes away. So it was like, let's just do this. Let's get together in person. And like there was just something about being right there with the person that I definitely think that helped.
You could see that with you guys. It's not just like you guys talking, when you see the connection, you have a different level. Being in person,
Yeah,
seeing those jokes in real time and seeing you guys having like if I didn't know that's how you met him, I would have thought you guys were childhood friends because the
right.
way you guys act.
Yeah.
It was really cool at PowerCon getting to meet Steven, and like
Yeah.
he is very shy guy. I have
He
to admit that
he
he's
is.
very shy. He's
Yeah.
sweetheart of a man, but like he's like a teddy bear, bro. Like
Yeah.
I always thought you were a teddy bear, but like this dude is legitly what you expect a teddy bear to be like.
He's
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 sweetheart,
definitely shaped. He's teddy bear
very,
shaped.
very like respectful. Like it just like he just was a different vibe. Like you came off looking like you're like me
Yeah.
compared to him. Like you know what I'm saying? Like loud, obnoxious, like doing your thing.
Yeah.
But he was just
Yep. In
like
everybody's face, and he's just kind of standing back, kind of
yeah.
shy.
But he obviously wasn't shy enough that he's like running the other way and nothing. Like
No,
he
no, no, no.
stays the ground. But like I think that's a good dynamic. You can see
Well,
his love.
so the thing with him is he's very he had some anxiety issues, like to the point where I guess before they even started doing My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, like he would like get sick thinking about recording and like people hearing him, and so like he had some hard times. Um Now, because we bonded over listening to all those podcasts and stuff, like the same ones and all that. So because of you guys, we ended up falling in love with He-Man all over again. We met each other. We started a podcast, which then I finally had someone to go to PowerCon with. So me, him, and Matthew Rodriguez,
Yeah.
all three went to PowerCon 2018 together. In that process, Steve still anxiety, not feeling, on the plane, he had to be quiet, like it was just kind of nutty. But he had us. Went there. He was scared to talk to the Four Horsemen.
Hmm.
So I went up and I talked to Cornboy and said, hey, can he do an interview with you? Yes, he can, blah, blah, blah. Because of that, Cornboy then reached out, wanted to hear the podcast later on. because he did two interviews, one for My Wife's Gonna Kill Me and one for Podcasters Universe. He starts listening to both shows, realizes he likes My Wife's Gonna Kill Me a little more because we rip on each or they ripped on each other and whatever. It was just funny. It was like hanging out with some buddies, you know. And it was also, swearing and whatever. Because of that, he became a huge fan of the show. Well, those guys love Mythic Legions, would always talk about it, possibly increase sales, popularity of the show is getting a little bigger. All of a sudden, he's their friend. Boom, 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 a few years in, then they made action figures of that podcast, of our
I know.
podcast.
That is so cool.
So
Hey,
because of you, I have an action figure of myself. I just want to say that. So
you're welcome.
thank you.
But what's so cool about it is like it's almost you can see it in real time. I remember being at the podcast. I remember being at PowerCon. I remember
Yeah,
seeing all that, and I could see like I think you had told me at the like I had to go talk to Corn. I'm like, yeah, Cornboy is all the Four Horsemen guys are phenomenal people.
absolutely.
Like they're all
Yeah.
like they're just as big a geek as they are toy makers. They're talented artists. Cornboy is fun as hell. Eric is
Mm,
fun as hell. They're all
yep.
good people, and
And
they don't treat you differently.
not at
You know,
all. And maybe at first he might have been a little creeped out by us because can we talk? But like, once he got to know us and all that,
listen, he was going to PowerCon for a while. He's not gonna be creeped out by this. This is
I
of all
mean,
the things that's gonna creep
true,
you out. Is that
true.
get out of
But
here
from
with
my
that?
perspective, uh, but it's to the point now where like the horsemen, like, so we go to Legion's Con now every year. We've been special guests a few times. Um, they've taken us out to dinner. They come, not all four or three. Well, there's three, four, five, six, whatever. There's a bunch of people in their
Yeah,
crew, but the three main guys, two of them have come here to Michigan and they've come to MesquiteCon because that Pete keeps doing that show every year. They've come here and like we've gone out to dinner with them, like he they've talked to my kid and my wife and like it's weird. Like I'm making friends with like these toy creators now and like, but they're not toy creators anymore. Yes, they are, but
they are.
they're friends first and toy creators second.
It
It's nuts.
it's amazing to see that happen in this day and age. Because
Yeah.
like my obsession with comics, when I wanted to work in comics, I was 16. Me and Crystal were dating 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I don't want to go to a convention because if I go to a convention, they're going to see me as some kid. I want them to see me as a peer. So me
Yes.
and Crystal learned that okay, so these comic pros all live in, and they live in Brooklyn, Queens, wherever. And it's like, where do they go to associate with each other? And there was a bar that was their place for some reason. It was just a famous bar.
Yeah.
And like we found out what it is. We showed up, talked to them like we knew them forever. Because that's like you can't be afraid, right? So
Hmm.
I treated them like they were humans. Great, cool. Bought them drinks. I had like hustled at school selling crap to get money to buy these people drinks and like at a bar for us to make connections, and we made connections. And then you, of course, you still go to the conventions. You don't go up to the table like, hi, yeah, like, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
so much so that I didn't realize this that like when I turned 40. Crystal posted on Facebook, I want to wish my husband a happy 40th birthday. Three comic book pros like, wait a second. What do you mean you're 40 now? Because I was 16 when we met them, and they thought, well, obviously we're at this bar, we're
Yeah.
in our 20s. And like when my friend Buzz, who worked on Vampirella and all these comics, he was like, no, seriously, what the fuck do you mean you're just turning 40? And I'm like, I was 16 when we met. He's like, no, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
and we're both the same age. But I didn't, you never act like it. But it's like that's how we had to do it because I needed
Yeah.
to make those connections, to make
Yeah.
lifelong friends from these comic book people who are friends first and create a second.
Yeah.
But that was the old way. We had to physically do it. So using like your online platform and yet using that to help get into a doorway to make friends with
Yeah.
pros, that's very hard to do in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I think it's also because you're not young. The younger generation don't know to like first out, you're a musician, you're in bands, you perform, you play that bar, you know what to do to get a crowd over again. So don't sit there go, oh, yo, I'm so shy, I'm nerdy. Get out of here with that.
Uh, you know,
100%.
regardless of all that though, I really do. Like I have like and you know this too. I have like probably I don't have any confidence. I have like the
Right.
lowest self-esteem about myself. And not that I didn't have friends as a kid, but I didn't, I felt like I was picked on more than I had friends. And so now I still kind of going to the conventions, traveling to PowerCon and all that, I still, I looked up to you guys and I was like, I want to be part of the cool kids club, but these guys are probably just going to think of me as some freaking weirdo and all, and you probably still do, but or at least, we can hang out and all that
I
stuff
can't
now.
talk any shit about nobody.
But, and it's stuff like that where like, it was even kind of hard to, say, we'll take Val Staples,
Yeah.
for example. It was sort of hard to even talk to him because he was like the guy. You know what I mean? That's how I viewed him then. And running the PowerCon thing, and he's the guy who brings He-Man together every year and all this, and then like eventually, having that admiration for him to where now like he calls me up and he's like, hey man, can you do a video for PowerCon this year, blah blah blah,
Mhm.
like we're buddies. And it's just I don't know, I still feel like I'm waiting to get kicked out of the club, like like I'm not supposed to be in here. But I'm not complaining, man, because I made some pretty damn good friends, and if it all ends tomorrow, at least I know I had a damn good time. So
I think the idea is that, like my wife always explained it to me, is that the people who we're associating with are just as weird as us. I mean,
yeah,
that's just who we are. It, they all have social anxiety, every one of them. And they all think differently. So, like,
yeah,
I come very brash sometimes. I don't try to, it's not intentional. I just always felt that that would work. And being stuck in my little bubble over here, it works very well here.
yeah,
So, like, bring that to another state, another district, or whatever it is. I have to try to remember to pull back because not everyone can handle that. And it's not everyone is like you. Like that's something I had to always remember. Thank God my wife does that for me. Stop. They're afraid of you. I'm like, why would they be afraid of me? It's like, yeah, yeah, because you're doing that, stupid.
yeah.
That's not normal out there. But like learning that, like in first meeting guys, like how I met Val through Pixel Dan and those guys,
Yeah.
and like I hated him, hated Val, absolutely hated Val, because like he said something that I took the wrong way. Go figure. Uh, because not realizing Val is also a very unique way guy who he is when he says something.
Yep.
He
Yep.
also doesn't realize sometimes when he also overthinks things when he says stuff. So now you'll never get like I always wondered why he would just look at you and not say nothing when you even asked him a question and then he'll say something. And like, what's that about? Learning that he's trying his best as well as what I should probably do is like I should stop first. Think how I'm going to say something
Yep.
first.
Yep. Think of how I'm going to respond.
Val actually does that. He'll like professional thinking, okay, articulate, and he does
Yep.
that.
Yep. Yep.
My brain's like, bah, 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 and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that didn't work out well. But he also didn't do that when he met me. He came off because he heard who I was. He kind of came off kind of boom, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
walked away, and my wife saw my face. She's like, what happened? I don't like him. No, I'm gonna treat him like shit for the rest of this weekend. And then we end up connecting. And it's
Yeah.
so funny. But
Yeah.
like you learn that he's another person who texts me all the time. We talk as much as we can.
Yeah.
And when he got with who he's with and has the whole family, he would ask that questions like he's not used to because it's something new in his life.
Yeah.
And he knows the guys he can talk to about that is us. So
Yeah.
he'll text us randomly. I know he texts you. I know he'll text me. And it's
Yeah.
like more personal stuff. And I love that because that's a friend. That's friendship. It's
Yeah.
not just, oh, a guy I did a podcast with because maybe I was useful.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm not
No.
used to any of that shit. And I remember, I think the first time I remember him ever saying your name, because didn't you make a song for Roast School Dinner? Or gave a
So,
song or something like that?
good segue, right?
Yeah.
So I actually these three songs, I just finally threw up on Spotify like a couple weeks ago after having them in my back pocket for like 10 years or so.
Pause,
Uh,
pause, pause, pause. I have been begging this guy forever.
and you're not alone, man.
But it's so more annoys me more than anything else because I feel like, me and you and the people I deal with, we're all very similar. We
Yes.
do everything. There's nothing we don't have our hands in. So like I used to go to Funkadelics and be in a studio and record songs and do shit. And like you're better at it by your freaking self. And it was like it's like this is ridiculous. I'm like, just put it out there. It's like, nah, I'm still working on it. It's not perfect. I'm like, oh. So
Yeah.
all right, go on.
So these three songs, they were recorded by a buddy of mine, Dan Wheaton, who's in a band called the Omega Experiment. Um, and he produced it, he recorded it, but I did all the instruments, I wrote the drum parts, blah blah blah, all this stuff, sang all the parts. But he encouraged me along the way. It would not have been good had he not been there. So I'm forever grateful for what he pulled out of me for those songs. But those three songs I had, and I remember listening to Roast Google and probably Val saying, hey, if you do original music and this and that,
Mhm.
feel free to send us some stuff. So, and I remember sending, um, my story, my He-Man story, how I got into it and all that stuff. And then at the end, it was like, here's some music if you want to play it type of thing. And it was probably one. Oh, I ended up sending all three, so I don't know which one he ended up playing first, but I do know that I think all three of them were eventually played on the show, I think, possibly. Um, but yeah, that music now has it's under the band name Another Path, and I put those three songs out on Spotify, and I think it's hit like iTunes. And is iTunes a thing, or is it like Apple Music or whatever?
Uh,
It's on iHeart Radio. It's on.
I'm still gonna call it iTunes, so it's
Yeah, there
whatever.
you go. So basically, like anywhere where it streams, I mean, I've even found clips of it like on TikTok and like Instagram and stuff like that. It's not the parts that I want to have as the 1 minute clip, but whatever, it's on there regardless. And I have no lofty goals or anything. It was basically like I've been sitting on those three songs forever because I wanted to do a whole bunch more and release them all at once. Well, those were recorded differently. The new stuff's never going to sound the same. Let's just finally throw them out. And I did. And, it's kind of opened up now. I've been working on music for another album or another, whatever it's going to be, for years now. And I just keep going over, oh, well, that's not perfect. That's not perfect. That's not. Well, now I'm like itching. I'm like, well, I released three songs. Maybe I could just release three more, and then those will be gone. And then I could get three more, and then those will be, and I could just start this progressive thing of just like moving songs out. Like I said, with no lofty goals. I love writing music, and I love listening to music, and I don't mind listening to my own music so long as it sounds good. So that's just what I'm working on, and hopefully that stuff eventually, you know, is available to public. But it should be. I've sent you a few things here and there as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely. There's the last.
I value your opinion, so
Yeah, we talk about it. I'm like, this is good, and I have Chris listen to it, Rebecca listen to it, and like we'll
yeah.
go over and like we'll go back and forth and talk about it. Being because like Rebecca is learning percussions, that she's doing theater
Mhm.
production, she's voice acting. She's way more like us. It's a
Yeah.
little unnecessary. She's lucky to have us and not have like older generation parents that were like, yeah, you can't do that. You're gonna make no goddamn money
Right.
doing it.
Yeah. No,
Like
we're
we're
all
like, I
encouraging.
prefer you do all
Yeah.
this. Like, like just want me to help you? I could show you how
Yeah.
to edit a video. And she's like, I don't need you, like at all.
Yeah. Now
I'm
you're
I'm a
desperately want to be a
child.
part of it.
My brain's a sponge. You're old and you're learning still how to hit key codes to do shit. Yeah, I got this. And so then I'll ask her, like, hey, funny story. I was working on a video and I didn't have a green screen. So how do I get rid of the background? And she's like, come here. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I'll give you credit. But like it's so funny. So like Crystal like self-taught keyboard. She played
Mhm.
violin and like I did guitar for years. I self-taught bass, which I suck, but it's only four strings, fuck it.
Right.
Um, and like so like when I hear people play, I'm like, yeah, that's in my head. That's what I wish I can do.
Mm.
And I know when you hear other stuff, you go, that's what I want to do.
Oh
But
yeah, I gave years and years ago I gave up on trying to be like quote unquote better or the I knew I was never going to be the best because there's too many of the best.
there's no such
But
thing as the best. It's just
well, and that's just it too. It's all also opinions too. So like, one man's David Gilmour is another man's Eddie Van Halen. I
yeah,
mean,
sure.
it, they're completely different, but there's things that speaks to certain people. So I knew that I was never going to be like I was never going to reach the top. But if I could get somewhere around Jerry Cantrell level, then I think I'll be able to do some stuff. And
But it's
that's kind of
also you finding your sound though. It's not
right.
trying to be somebody else. There's so
Right.
many groups that have put albums out, and you go, the reason why you didn't succeed is because, we already, it's like that joke. It's like, I want this. Yeah, we have this at home. It's like you don't want to be this at
Exactly.
home. You want to be that.
Yeah.
But you can't be that because that already exists.
And it started that way at a young age too. Obviously, radio, I'd listen to whatever was on top 40 radio or whatever. And there's a lot of hair bands back in the day, but it was back to back with like pop songs. And but I knew at a young age that I really loved things like theme songs to cartoons, and like I had a knack for like at least recognizing a kick-ass pop melody or whatever, something that would get stuck in your head, earworms and whatnot. And so I always kind of gravitated towards that. While I may like some heavier music here and there, if a song's got a good pop hook for a chorus, like bro, that's it. And that early '90s stuff, the Alice in Chains and the Nirvana and the Metallica Black album, Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. You had the Chili Peppers at the time. I mean, just all that stuff in the early '90s was so influential, and it was like they all had this really catchy stuff, but that was really heavy too. And I would take all that in, but I also liked Michael Jackson, and through the years Stevie Wonder, and then I gained a big appreciation for, Steely Dan and just whatever, Days of the New and like all these different bands and the weird ones, the Devin Townsends and the 12-foot ninjas and just stuff where it didn't really have any rules. They could just
Hmm.
kind of do whatever they wanted. And maybe, Devin Townsend's a great example. I'm not sure how familiar you are with him, but he literally has like written some of the heaviest, fastest, insanest, that's not a word, but I'm using it, music. And then the next song is like a Disney children's song. You know what I mean? Like he's just, and he didn't care. It was like, just, it's under my name and I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. And I was like, that's really inspirational. Granted, I can't do what he does, but if I can put a funk song right next to like a thrash song and be okay with it, like why not? And then since it's all coming from me, it does have that kind of like the glue, it has the Masters of the Universe, Real Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtle slime connecting all of that
It
stuff,
makes sense
and
why you like Faith No More. It's
yeah,
just that they were not Nine Inch Nails, but they also weren't Chili Peppers. They were that
right. They
that
called them alternative, but they had like metal, and
yeah.
they called them metal, but they had like soulful
Hmm.
ballads, and you're like they were kind of all over the place. Mike Patton, fantastic singer. I mean, that band is easily pushing to be my favorite band of all time. The older I get, I used to. I mean,
Yeah.
Metallica, I don't think will ever be topped, but like that's just because it's ingrained in me.
Yeah.
It's like what
See,
made me want to
your
play guitar.
Metallica is my Twisted Sister. And,
Okay.
and I don't know why. I did because when I was a kid with Twisted Sister, bless you, with
Thank you.
Twisted Sister, it was like they were the anti-hair band. And
Yeah.
people didn't get they were mocking hair bands with the makeup being bad
Yeah.
and Dee's voice and Dee not giving a rat's ass what people thought.
Yeah.
People would say, "Oh, Twisted Sister was a copy of this band," and you know what? Do what Twisted Sister said? We still got some of the biggest songs anyone knows us.
Yeah.
Were you in the Pee Wee Herman movie? No, you weren't.
Exactly, right?
And that's why I love Dee. And when they went to court over music,
Yeah.
It's D. Snyder and
Seeing how
John
articulate
Denver.
he is,
Yeah,
and
him
yeah,
and John Denver. Okay,
yeah,
so let's just chill out with. You didn't see anybody else over
yeah.
there doing as good as these guys did because they always were all coked up. Like D came there professional, ready to go, and so like my love for like D. Snyder is like who he is as a person, and like and learning to change as he gets older, and realize that even his gimmick could be taken wrong now, and understood that, and like
Yeah.
express like he grew.
Self-awareness is
Yeah.
huge.
And like not a lot of bands do that. Most bands
Yes.
have double, like I'm a Smashing Pumpkins nut. Billy's not gonna apologize for shit.
Right.
Like
Yep.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like as long as he doesn't talk, it just does the songs. I'm
Right. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you, buddy. But like D, I'll watch a D Snyder interview because that's the
Oh,
type of cat he is.
and I've never been like of course, the radio songs and stuff like that. But I've never been like the biggest Twisted Sister fan. But I have watched many or listened to whatever, one or the other, um, interviews with him, and he's just always got something great to say, you know.
Great
So,
stories, yeah. But
yeah.
also it's the idea of these certain groups that we grew up with, and how like it's not just the influence of liking the songs. It's
Mm-mm,
if those artists do stuff like Stephen Vai to me is one of the greatest guitarists.
for
And
sure.
and the thing is that name six great songs.
Right.
He doesn't have the top 40 hits,
Right.
but when he's on stage, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, he's
Like
gonna smoke
he's
everybody, and he's gonna be
Oh,
awesome.
it's gonna be great. And like you don't, and that's the thing. Like you get guys like that. Then you get guys like who are a top band who are so more talented that they give credit for. Look at
Yeah.
Flea,
Yeah.
Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like him alone could do what you do, like all the instruments, do his
Yeah.
thing, and go crazy, playing trumpet on a track and doing
Yeah.
this and act in like
Right.
movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you see guys like that, but you take those elements from those bands, but then the bands are phenomenal. And as you get older, you appreciate things differently.
Yeah.
Like I've lost a lot from Metallica because I never felt they grew. And when they try to grow, I think their fans wouldn't let them grow.
There's heavy metal is such a
Yeah,
difficult
yeah.
fandom. Um,
That's not just it's
I
every
mean,
fandom has it.
it
Let's be
is every
real.
fandom, but I mean, specifically in this case, as yeah, Metallica fans, I mean, people are still to this day fighting over the fact that, Black Album was, this big sellout, and they sucked ever since. And it's like they put out so much, and like obviously you haven't heard some of it because there's some really good stuff in there, but it is what it is. Um, you like what you like, and it's entertainment, and don't take it too seriously. But when I got into Metallica, I mean, it was Enter Sandman, and people are like, how dare you? Well, I was 11, 12 years old, and this freaky video of this, old man, and like there's this guy with long hair, like in my face, like what the fuck is this? You know? And then I see, right next door to that video, they're throwing out, it smells like Teen Spirit. And here's these greasy dudes who are just, it's chaos. And like, none of these people give a fuck. And they're screaming in your face. And like, I like that. And then when, you start to learn more actually about those musicians, and realizing, Metallica, they didn't change because I mean, maybe in their head they were like, yeah, I'd like some more money. I'd like to be able to, fly
Yeah,
on a
they didn't go out of
plane.
their way to go like, I like that private jet. So what
Yeah.
can I? No, no, there's a conscious
But they,
decision to make good music.
yes.
It's just that now that with a bigger fan base, you should be able to open up.
Yeah.
Eh,
And,
eh,
and they obviously tried to do that. They had major success with the Black Album. The next album, Load, was it was in the same vein, but at the same time, it was a hell of a lot different too. And I can see definitely where people are like, all right, that's it, throw up their hands. Well, that was the first Metallica album that came out that I went out and bought day one. And I learned all those songs. I listened to all those songs. Those riffs are fantastic to play. Some of the songs are grade A duds, but I mean, it was like this band who like could only do this all of a sudden is now doing this. And that made me feel like, well, shit, they don't care what their fans think. They're going to put out whatever the fuck they want. They're experimenting. And dude, I think about how much I've changed in the last 2 years as a musician. And like, I'm not gonna keep playing a certain style just because that's what I always played. You're gonna broaden your horizons, and a lot of those bands did that. And I think the bands that don't do that, or at least take risks, they don't grow, and
It's a double-edged sword. Like
yeah.
for me, like I'll gatekeep the shit out of old Aerosmith.
Hmm.
After Pump, I hate everything.
I
It's a
feel you.
personal hatred because I just don't like the music.
Yeah.
But I feel like, but after Pump is when, well, from Pump on is when they became superstars again. Like they were
Yeah.
big.
Yep.
Then they died off because of drugs, the band broke
Yep.
up.
Yep.
But then Pump on, they became international superstars, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, it's just like I just couldn't get behind it. I used to gatekeep the shit out of that stuff. But like if you think about when you talk about this stuff, it's like look what Marilyn Manson did when he came out with Mechanical Animals.
Yeah.
Completely different album.
Yep.
Completely just every he even changed the way he looked on purpose to say this
On
is something
purpose. Yep.
something new. And that album is phenomenal.
To this day, I will say, as much of a freaking brilliant album that Antichrist Superstar is, I still am team Mechanical Animals.
And you know what? It's one of those albums because that album, once again, like if Billy Corrigan doesn't talk, he's great.
Hmm.
Help produce and write and work on that album. He
Yep.
100% worked on the album. He's credited. He worked on that album. He worked on Celebrity Skin, like the two big albums at that
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Made them bigger than life. Now Mechanical was huge. This dope show and all this, and the Speed of Pain. Is that the whole album has different layers, but it's still
Yeah. New
Manson.
model number 15 and
Yeah,
just, oh,
everything.
such a
Like
good album.
it's like uh it's just like but then he went back. He went
Yeah.
back to safety.
Yeah.
Because as great as Mechanical Albums is, as great as like it was so unique, the fan base was just like, well, with you, do, can't we just go back and do other shit? Can't you
Yeah.
just play
Well,
like,
and on top of that, I mean, how do you duplicate, that album? That was like a
It's very
specific
similar with
play.
Metallica when they did the
Yeah.
Black Album.
Yeah.
You get to a crescendo that's so good.
Yeah.
Pumpkins had the double CD, a double
Yeah.
record when they did Melancholy
Melancholy.
and
Yeah.
Infinite Sadness. For me, I thought Adore was phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
different, but like when you hit something so big, it's hard to afterwards do that again,
Yeah, you
right?
can't replicate perfection in some cases.
And sometimes like even like with the Beatles, I love the Beatles. Every Beatle
Mhm.
album to me is phenomenal, especially the later albums, from Abbey Road and all that, the White Album and the Submarine and all that. But the problem is, at that time, they weren't.
Yeah.
After the Beatles were gone and people missed them, every album mattered
Hmm.
then. So when you see certain groups, sometimes it's the longing of what you lost because the Beatles cut it off.
Right.
People thought these guys were gonna be together forever, and they stopped because the Beatles
Yeah.
also did something unique that no band has ever done. They said 1966, stop touring, not touring no more. Fuck
Yeah.
that. And this is not when they could do a TikTok video or an Instagram or
Right,
a
right, right.
YouTube. They had nothing. So
Yeah.
like they would just perform very sporadically. And they created Make an Album. So that was the only connection the fans had anymore. And when that went away, that love for every little nuance was there. With these bands, like with Metallica, still going to this day, the fans don't have time to miss you.
Yeah.
And when they don't miss you, they want what made them love you. They'll
Yep.
forget everything in between.
Yeah.
Even with the Pumpkins, even with Manson, like Manson has some great songs. He has the sporadic songs here there. If I was your
Yeah, it used
vampire
to be
and
full
this.
albums that were killer, and now it's like,
Now it's
a handful of songs on
it's
each album or whatever.
that
But
song, that song, and that song.
yeah,
But
yeah,
all those songs, if I asked you, you go, oh, that's a Manson song. Yeah.
yeah, yep,
Which one is it?
right,
It's
right.
got that run riff. That's the thing when you see like that, but you can never please everybody. Like you said, like loving what you love and like do what you do. When you're working on your music, like you're doing this for you, which is very lucky for you. You're making this for you.
Yeah. Like I said, no goals other than to just make some music and have it be entertaining to me. I've tried a few silly things. I'm a goofy guy sometimes. I'm like, well, Mike Patton does some dumbass shit in serious songs and it works out. Maybe I could. Yeah, it doesn't work for me, but you got to try it. Try all these
I
different
don't think
things.
it's anything he ever done with music comedically that hasn't really worked. I mean, the Skeletor, when you did Skeletor stuff, you do the little
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
skits and little things. And one thing you also did really well, and I have to segue a little bit with this because this is something because you helped me out when I was working on a show. I asked you, I wrote a script. I said, go do a skit. You're good at doing skits really well. You comprehend it so well. Your mind is not old. Like you can legitimately do these TikTok skits, the Vine stuff with no hesitation. Like
There's something about taking in, like I said earlier, you take in certain things about, I'd say theme songs for shows, cartoons, this and that. But also there's certain things like we'll use 80s sitcoms, for example. There's so many tropes and stuff that like it's like you have this visual, what you want something to look like. Like, oh, well, I'm going to conjure up this. Like this is, and you're basically ripping off stuff. But, of course you're doing it like I do with music and just compile it together and I'll just do what I can. And
the ding
I'm
dings are different.
yeah, and sometimes I'm painfully self-aware of what I can and can't pull off. There's other times when I'm not aware at all, and I'm like, I don't know. We'll just see what happens, and like, then somebody will be like, "Oh, that's awesome! Oh, sweet, cool, it worked." But a lot of the time it's a big guessing game. So when it does work out, um, it's pretty sweet doing those skits. I mean, I used to kind of make my own videos and put time. I don't have time for a lot of that stuff anymore. Um, but like writing theme songs or performing, little theme songs for people and stuff like that, just being able to kind of conjure up that old stuff and, seeing how I can interpret that and give it to somebody in return. Like I think right now there's probably five or six, no, maybe not that many, maybe three or four podcasts that are like on YouTube right now where every theme song is done by me.
That's awesome. Well, you know
So it's
what?
pretty funny.
It's important to have that because it A builds up your resume and shows your diversity. And I keep telling you all the time, like how it all that matters in being multi-talented. You don't have to be the best, but
Right.
having just look, master of one thing is cool, but being really useful a lot, you're gonna be more
Well, and that's how
needed.
I got the PowerCon gig. Val saw, he's like, "You're kind of a stupid moron. Do you think you could use that
That was the
stupidity?"
exact
It
conversation. Like I said,
was too.
Val,
It's
I can
like,
see Val completely saying
yeah,
that. Yeah,
you're kind of a
you're a
dork.
fucking,
Do
you're
you
like a
think
fucking
maybe,
idiot. Yeah,
yeah,
like
could you possibly somehow incorporate that? You're fun. You do this, and of course I'm nervous as shit, and I don't, you don't want to let the guy down type of thing. I don't want to let anybody down, but this is like a convention and like he's wanting me to do ads for it and stuff.
yeah.
But like it was it was hectic, but at the same time, it was very, very awesome to be able to do something new where I was taking action figures, doing like a minute long video, which sometimes would take an entire day to make. But
Oh, I know.
having you're right, having the figures talk to each other and then throwing, some music on it. Or I even wrote, the uh using country, Western figures, and put them all
Yeah,
out there. And I did like a country song and like
yeah.
they're singing about PowerCon and stuff. And like it was I was able to use my voices because I kind of have, a few silly voices in me. Going back to, POTU, Podcasters Universe, me and Steve, doing and the when we were reading the mini comics, we used to
Yep.
do voices for all that stuff. And of course, they were nothing. Skeletor was similar, but that's about it. Everything else we kind of made up ourselves, and just went silly with it. So being able to, someone be able to see that out of me and just being like, bro, like just have a free for all. Just, keep it family friendly.
Mm.
So it was nice to kind of get recognized and then I got to try something new. It gave me an excuse to try that out.
Oh, it was hysterical, and it's like just to show the level of what you do, and it's just gassing your head up. I'm basically doing this to gas your head up to for you to keep creating and do more. But the music is gorgeous. I love it. It's on my Spotify. It's in my rotation. Added to my playlist, all the
I love
songs,
it.
and I love to see. I also, it's not like I don't have more because you've sent me, but I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
I know I want to support it there. So as
yeah.
soon as you get some more of that would be good. I would appreciate doing more of those. But is there anything you're currently wanting to that you're working on that is something a new venture, or is it something like you're working on, or something can you even talk about if you are doing it?
Right now, I, there's nothing like brand new where there's no secrets or anything like that. I did finish up some art for Rob McCallum for his Nintendo 64 Quest. God, it's going to be a big thing. They just had a Kickstarter for that, and I don't know if you ever saw Nintendo Quest or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, it was him and his buddy Jay. Jay goes around
I
and
had
tries to
I had
collect.
to watch it because we were supposed to interview him for the documentary they were doing
Okay,
back in the day. So like Val's like, all right, listen, this is the guy, and I'm like, all right, well, I should
yeah,
really go see his shit. So I watched it. It was on like Prime Video. I
yep,
watched two
yep.
of his documentaries. I watched the Nintendo Quest, and then he did something about like his mother,
That yeah,
yeah,
Missing Mom.
the
That was
missing mom. So I
really
watched
good.
that.
That's what we've watched that one a
Yeah,
few different times. He did a documentary about Kitty, because he's
yeah.
actually married
Married to the
to
drummer.
one of the one of the
Ba
bassists. Yep,
Bassist. I thought she was the
yep.
drummer.
Nope.
Oh, well, I
Early
mean,
days.
not like I'm gonna say that I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but I feel you're wrong. But
uh, yeah. And uh, what else have I done for him? Well, I said it earlier, but yeah. So I finished up some stuff for that, and I'm kind of at like a spot where I don't have to do anything for like a month.
that's
So
good.
right now it's just going to be like a so Legion's Con is in a little over a month in New Jersey, and I'm going to be heading out there, and we have a booth, and I recently did some um bowling pin art. So I took bowling pins and I painted them up to look like, pop culture characters or whatever.
Cool.
I did a couple of He-Man ones for my buddies, and I just recently did a Legions, Mythic Legions character of Pelvicus, which was based on, my buddy Travis from My Wife's Gonna Kill Me. And I gave that to him we gave each other Father's Day gifts. And that was one I gave him, and he's like, "Dude, you should make some of these and sell them at Legion's Con." I'm like, "Oh, bro, that's actually a really good idea because those
Yeah.
guys are nuts, man. Like, that is like one of the biggest freaking art shows I've ever been to. Like, there's so much customizing and stuff like that going on there. So,
I'm a huge
hopefully I'll get
fan of
some of
those
that
kind
done."
of conventions. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I really want to go. It's just that October is a pain in the ass right now. I'm dying to go because every time you've been out there, I'm like, we should just drive out there and like
Dude,
just
it's
go to the show.
nothing but a good time. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like
And
it's just
I had told her, like I should come out. You're like, you should definitely come out. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to come out. So it's like, and it's not even that far. It's like a couple hours drive, but
yeah,
like, it's like I would love to get out there. I want to start doing more shows myself because after doing Anime NYC and like seeing how that fandom supports independent creators
yeah,
is so crazy because it's so different than the Comic Cons because like a lot of my comic book pro friends like they get boots at like San Diego or New York Comic and they're barely breaking even, but yet every single person at Anime NYC, the kids, the adults, everyone's buying fan art. They're buying,
right.
you don't have to go and like make original art. You just make prints and the
Yeah.
prints sell, the pins sell, the stickers sell like crazy.
Hmm.
And like, I was like, what are we doing? I've been working on customs and working on my own figure line, and I'm like, we need to be doing these
Yeah.
shows because
Yeah.
it's so important to like the fan base wants to own something unique.
Hmm.
And I
That
didn't,
I'm telling you, that's I can't talk high any higher about Legion's Con in that, aspect, because so even if you're not a huge Mythic Legions fan or Cosmic Legions fan, um, a lot of us love action figures and we appreciate custom stuff and we appreciate unique things, and that's it has that in spades. I mean, there's from booth to booth. Sure, you're going to find some figures that they're selling from the company and all this type of stuff, but there's tons of like so indie toy makers, which I think is like the future of toys right now.
No,
Granted,
100%. That's it. Yeah.
there's so much good stuff, and just walking through that place, I just call it an art show because yeah, sure, there's people selling like prints of art. Nate Barch is there selling prints and stuff, and other people as well, but like the people making custom heads and like painting these custom heads and custom bodies and just custom figures, and then there's dioramas that people are
Yeah.
doing, and just I mean it's freaking awesome, and everyone is super supportive of each other, you know, it's like it literally is just like everybody like you know, giving each other, you know, the stroke through the whole place. Like it's such a good freaking time. And then everybody drinks and has a great time afterwards. So even if
It's
you don't
awesome.
drink, it's still a great time.
See that? See now you already promoted the show, so that's great. Now we checked off more things on the thing. But I think that's cool because like also knowing how the Four Horsemen are as people that checks out. Like there's so many now. I feel like conventions have become prevalent and all kind of successful.
Yeah.
And it's like you see regular people now just like, hey, there's a convention. You want to go check it out?
Yeah.
That's something regular people never used to do.
Never. And
No way.
you know, and maybe a lot of that has to do with the Marvel movies getting so huge and becoming this big pop culture thing. You know, that it's not just kind of underground and Saturday morning cartoons anymore. You know, it's you know, your dad knows who freaking Iron Man is now, type of thing, or whatever. You know,
Well, it's
your sister knows Spider-Man,
yeah,
and you know,
it's so funny when you see that. Like you think about like you see the people that show up, it's like there's something for everybody. And what's so cool is like, we were at the anime convention, like half the dudes there are just gym rats.
yeah,
And it's like, but they're not dicks. They're
hmm
showing up, they're like all dressed up as Goku or whatever the hell, and but they're having a good time. They're there to take pictures, but they paid for the thing to get in. But yet I still saw them with bags of stuff they purchased.
yeah,
That meant they probably went there with just this one goal in mind, but then they got absorbed into what a
yeah.
convention does. And
And
it's
a prime example of this is my wife, Laura. Um, she met me not being a geek at all, you know, and I wasn't, to be fair. I mean, I was more of a closeted geek. I mean, I wasn't ever scared. I would talk about those things and whatever, draw those things, whatever, had a few toys, but I wasn't like I am now. And she started to really appreciate it once the toy convention started. Once I started making all these friends, and like I said, Michigan is a hotbed for like toy people, where you know we probably have a good 50 people or whatever who get together at you know, at various versions of these toy shows throughout Michigan, you know, throughout the year. So a lot of these people are traveling to these cons and doing all these things, and she's meeting all these people and going, I cannot believe how nice all of these people are. Meeting, you know, her meeting you and your family, and you know, all of those people out at PowerCon, and just having the MesquiCon in town here, you know. uh it she she's a collector now. She collects like she doesn't collect everything, but she collects like horror stuff, and
yeah.
which is great because I don't have to now. Like I love me some horror stuff, but I just don't have the room. So the fact that she's doing it, oh sweet. Well, I love collecting and buying collects. Boom, get her this stuff, you know. So, you know, and then of course the kid too, and the kid loves doing cosplay and stuff like that. So um I don't know, it's pretty exciting. Just that whole community is very, very welcoming, and you know, it, so, you know, going to Legion's Con a few years ago, for example, is one, and some of those people listen to My Wife's Going to Kill Me and Podcasters in the Universe, and just meeting these people who have never ever uh had that, you know, that camaraderie, that in person. Watching this one guy, Chris Durant, I love. He comes in and you know, he had talked to people online, but he was really scared to talk to these people, really nervous. And you just see him like sitting on the ground by himself, like not talking to anybody, you know, and you know what he's going through because I've been that guy. I, you know, and hey, Chris. Huh? Get over here, man.
Yeah.
And he's shaking. Like,
Oh,
can I get a picture with you? Oh my God, I watch you guys on TV, you know. Like, dude, no, we're just dudes and we're gonna have a damn good time. And now every time I see that dude, I'm running up behind him, giving him a hug and like, bro, let's, get a drink and let's hang out.
that's
Like,
awesome.
yeah, it's these toy communities are freaking awesome.
It's good because I think in this day and age, I think more and more people need support. It's more like before, especially back in the day. I remember going to a convention and it was like maybe 200 people, and half of them probably shouldn't have been out
Right.
in public at all, just in general. But they like there was no support. I feel like we were a collective, but we were also probably the harshest. There was the harshest group of people because like they were the people who would show up to conventions, especially back in the day for comic book conventions, were like the guy that you did not want to talk to at a convention.
Mm.
But it was all of them were there like that. Like, you get stuck with that guy talking about the love life of Wolverine and all the girls, and
Right,
like,
right,
dude, I
right.
don't feel really comfortable with you right now at all. But like, but there was no like you went with your people, but you didn't meet people. There wasn't like how you talk about like grabbing
Yeah.
people, become a community. I see that more with all the modern conventions. So all the bad stuff, people could say like, oh, conventions have changed and it's not the way it used to be. But I see the camaraderie. And I
Yeah.
think cosplay has a big supporting community about that because
Yeah.
a person who's shy will be in a cosplay or you're walking by in a costume and that's their favorite character.
Yeah.
They feel a connection to you because they like that character and they'll run up to you and
Yeah.
they'll say something. And my daughter loves that. She's dressed up as whatever she's dressed up as. And for us, it's kind of validation because like you don't know if you're doing the costume right. Crystal's there sewing, making outfits for my daughter. And
Yeah.
we're at a convention and she's picking such of course my daughter's my kid who's not gonna be like friggin' My Little Pony shit. She's pulling out a random Japanese thing that maybe 25 people have ever heard of
Yep.
that we don't even know. I'm like, and she shows up to the convention and all of a sudden they stop her and they connect with the character. And or there's a character that's from that show and there's another one and
Yep.
they do that and they give
Yep.
that and it's like that feeling, and it's so cool because I could see these shy kids like by themselves. They walk around with their little bag and stuff, and they might be with their parent, and they're like, and they look at the cosplay, like, and it's like, it's like they're meeting their character for real, and
Yeah.
it opens them up, and they become not shy.
Yeah.
Did they walk away shy again? But they started off
But
the
in that
start,
moment, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there's
and it's like
some
that.
great connections happening and
We didn't have that years ago with conventions. It was kind of
yeah.
like you went, you did your thing, and it was useful. And maybe there was some cliques of people. But to see, like, I never experienced anything at PowerCon when I saw that community. Because I
Yeah.
went to the first PowerCon I went to was 2016. My wife wasn't there, my daughter wasn't there. My two friends came, but they were just there to go to LA. So they would just come in. We're in Torrance, hotel. You go do your He-Man, we're out. And then my friends left me. Yeah, they
Yeah.
abandoned me. So I'm staying there going, what am I gonna do? Like I knew Val, I knew Pixel Dan, I knew Danielle, like I've talked to Daniel Bendick, but I didn't know him that well. I knew
Yeah.
of Nate Barch at the time, like didn't know him that well. And I'm like, I remember calling my wife going, I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. I think I'm just going to be standing like an idiot in the corner.
Yeah.
I'll make myself useful. And I was setting up stanchions and make myself useful. And then like within like an hour, I had met 100 people because I found out a lot of people were afraid to come up to me because they knew who I was. I don't know how they did because most people didn't. There was no video.
Right.
They heard my voice and they're
Well,
like,
and that happens too. Yeah.
yeah. And then
You have a very recognizable voice. Boom.
you stand off this, and I was staying there kind of like by myself, and then the guy's like, "Hey, Rob Bass." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" I was like, "Oh man," and then like I'm like, "Oh shit, someone recognized me." And then little by
Yeah.
little, then I found out like that first night, people came out to me like at the bar, and they're like, "I was afraid to come out with you." I'm like, "Why?" Well, because you're so like on the podcast, you're like, you're all this, and I'm like. wow, I'm sorry. I don't
Right.
mean,
I was
I
just
did,
being me,
I
man.
did like six other guys were like, I expected you to
This
have a
is all I know.
Yankees. I thought you'd have a backwards Yankees cap on and like
Yeah.
in Nikes. I'm like, no, no. I was kind of like a goth for many years, so I'm always
Yeah.
I'm like a Simpsons character. I have the same kind of color clothes all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
It's like the t-shirt design is slightly different. The all black clothes. That's
Yep.
me. But it's but like because of PowerCon, I saw that community, like that the He-Man.org had, and the Pop Culture Network forums had, but like it was in person and it was just so different than most conventions.
Yeah.
And it was like that was the first one, and ever since then, I'm seeing that people are finding themselves more with these conventions.
Yeah,
The more
and
we
there's a
have, the
lot
more,
more of them now
yes,
too.
yeah.
Like they're happening. There's places that used to just do them once a year here
Hmm.
that are now doing two or three different ones. And now, granted, does that, could that eventually, become a problem where it's oversaturated? Maybe, but for right now, people are really enjoying this
You
stuff,
know,
and I think it's awesome.
for a person running a show, people who want the money when they do the show, but it's also good because if the people are still, if you build it, they will come, right? If
Yep,
they are coming all the time,
sure
it,
will.
it doesn't matter. And I think having what you guys have, what you do, and like I'll say it a million times, like you may put yourself down, but you are just like everyone can just come up to you and be like really cool because you've never not accepted somebody. And like you, whoever was standing off to the side, I've seen you do it when we would hang out. We'll be talking, and I see you do that little look over, and you'd see someone kind of just standing off, maybe like not finding their way. You're like, yo, man, what do you think? And then you'd pull them in,
Yeah,
and you
I
catch that.
I've been that outsider, man, and whether it's a curse or a blessing, I don't know, but I'm pretty self-aware and I'm very empathetic. And so when I see someone, being excluded, I'm immediately that person. I am that excluded person, or
It's awesome.
whatever. So I don't. I just try to include mofos, man.
I think that's really cool. And I think we're there. We'll kind of just wrap this up because I think I've gassed your head up enough. I think this is cool. Uh, we'll talk a little bit longer if you're cool with it, but we'll talk after we'll stop recording. But
Okay.
I want to say that I want to thank you for coming on. This has been, I miss talking to everybody and seeing everybody. It is harder because we are all my friends, the ones I really talk to the most, are
Mhm.
nowhere near each other.
Right.
We're so far removed from each other, like all over the country.
Yeah.
But it's still cool to have this opportunity to do this. Granted, we can't do it in Steve's basement or whatever. Uh, I would do it.
Yeah,
Actually,
for
no,
sure.
I think I am probably the only person banned because I go too long. And am I still the longest episode yet?
You might be. You might be.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep that record.
But you were our first guest, so I mean,
Was I really?
yeah. You broke
No.
down the doors for everybody else. We were terrified, and luckily it worked out.
Well, because my whole thing is I was really just trying to do it to get you guys to come to the show. I was
Hmm.
like, I figured you guys are doing this show. I watch the show. I listen to you guys. I'm like, you guys need to be a freaking PowerCon. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason why you guys should not be a PowerCon. And I was going to abuse you so bad until you guys broke down and came. And I'm glad you did because
We did.
that was so much fun. And I was like, and I because like my first year, I learned so much about PowerCon. And then so much so I told my wife, all right, listen to me very carefully. You're going to go to this show and you're going to leave thinking you were there for 6 months and these people are your best friends. It's weird, it's an anomaly, but trust me. And
Yeah.
she did not believe it. By the end of the second year, when she came with me to PowerCon, I got home and it was like 700 friend requests on Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
And I
That's
turned to
unusual.
Crystal going, did you just are these all PowerCon people? And she's like, this, I'm like, you see, like it was a unique convention. And it's cool to see that
Yeah.
there's other conventions that are, I guess it wasn't so much an anomaly, but like the start
Yeah.
of something that obviously was going to happen. But I can't explain how these conventions have now become what we are. I think it
Yeah.
is because of podcasts where you get to meet these regular people
Yeah.
and
They're super accessible. now. I
Yes.
mean, yeah, you can talk to any of these people.
Yeah.
You realize that any Joe Schmo can now have their own TV show or radio
Yeah.
show or whatever. And they're not celebrity. You don't have to stand in line and beg to freaking talk to these people. You can meet them in the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Don't meet
yeah,
anyone in the bathroom, please.
it-
Don't do that. And
unless
this
you're prepared.
prepare wash twice.
Yeah.
Um, but like I feel like that's what's really cool. And I feel that what we have here when it comes back to like seeing the toy lines, like you talk about these indie toys, these is everything's going to be Kickstarter independent. And I think that's great because coming from a world where I wanted to make comics in the 90s and it was not accessible to me
Yeah.
because you did not have the money.
Yeah.
Like there was no, hey, I can search online for a printer who will be cheaper than this printer, but can still no. There was two printers in America, and both of them charged a bare minimum of 5,000 copies
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
print. As an independent person, you're like, I'm not gonna ever sell 5,000 copies.
That's true.
And it would cost $15,000. And you're like, but wait, how much am I going to sell these books for in
Hmm.
1995?
Yeah. Right.
No. So I didn't have that thing. So that's why you go out, you make connections, try to get pros, and you try to get out there because it wasn't accessible. But as here we are, the year is 2024, I've learned how to sell print, self publish. I knew how to do the technique, but not how to get it done. Now it's
Yeah.
so accessible. Making acrylic standees for my daughter's designs and like learning that like ninja print exists to make proper shirt designs and
Yeah.
it's all affordable. You can do everything you need and learning how to do like it was years I wanted to make toys,
Yeah.
but I didn't know about how silicone worked or the resin or
Yeah.
no one was there to teach you. And the people who did it would not tell you.
Right. And now
They
it's like
gatekeep
they're
it.
they're giving all of that info out and they're glad to do it. Oh yeah, I'll show you how to do that if you show me how to do this and blah blah
And they have
blah.
full channels teaching you how to make dioramas, how to
Yeah.
do like the craftsman. Him alone is like
Yes.
he's so willing to give knowledge as he learns it. There's
Yep.
people who would for years I would see these guys making, how did you make that? Oh no, man, I just did it. I'm like, no, you didn't just do it.
Yeah.
There's a process. What was
Yeah.
this process?
Help
And
me
you know,
out here,
yeah,
man.
even if you wanted to make a pin, they wouldn't even tell you. It's
Yeah.
but now the everything's a level playing field and it's
Yeah.
so cool. And it all goes to these communities that we're a part of. It because there's like you said, toy trade alone. You take that toy trade now using knowledge and trading, and it's all this stuff. It's such a good time, I think, for geeks
Hmm.
and for all these communities, and to see like how it can cross over. And I'm watching all my friends who have been doing this for a while succeed more now because there's more people's eyes on it.
Yeah.
And seeing you in a Pac-Man group, seeing you in the Turtles group, seeing you in whatever group this one was, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I always see it as like Jeremy liked this post. Like, what group is this? I know I posted shit, but
Yeah.
where is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And it's so cool. It's first person always Jeremy. Like no matter who posts something, Jeremy's the first one out there. That's pretty cool. I love that. I love that. And I think that's really awesome. And I think that keeps you genuine. And I think that's probably why you deserve all the success that you've come and all the success that you will have is because you're genuine. Yeah, I think, and it comes through, it shows through. There's a lot of people you could like, and you can always in the back of your head, you're thinking like, is he really nice or is he kind of like an ass? I like his videos, but I don't know if I ever want to meet that guy.
Yeah.
You
He's
get
probably a
those
dick.
people. Yeah, probably a dick. Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But like, 100%, that's not you, and that's really awesome because you worry about that when you meet people. Like, all right, they're cool here,
Yeah,
but
if I'm being a dick, then something is wrong.
I'm
That's
ready
all
to
I can
punch.
say.
I'm gonna ask you like who did it. Let's fuck
Yeah,
them up. Like
right. Who do I gotta kill?
that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. So, but I want to thank you for being on. So do me a favor, quickly promote. But of course, guys, in the description, I'll have all of Jeremy's links, all the stuff that he's doing, especially that Spotify, so you can hear his songs and harass him
Yeah.
to release more of the songs that I've gotten to hear already because they were ready to go when he
Yeah.
sent them to me, but he's like, no, I gotta, equalize it. Shut
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's good.
I'm
Just
doing it
put
all
it out.
myself. I'm learn it's a learning process.
It's
So,
my ass. What you sent me was fine. It was a full song. Full song, beginning, middle, end. There was nothing. Put it out.
okay.
We'll yell
I
later.
will. I'll do
Okay.
it.
So, okay,
I
quickly,
promise.
what is something people want to pay attention the most? And we'll put that in the descriptions below.
Yeah, no, I would say the podcasters of the universe. That's one of my absolute favorite things I do. If you love some He-Man talk, my wife is going to kill me, or my wife is going to kill me podcast. If you don't want to speak real quick in the Michigan
Mhm.
slur words, because we like to slur all our words together because we're lazy. Um, and that's a little not safe for work, so keep that in mind. We do it's a little questionable. Steve's on that with me, so Steve is on both shows. And then of course another path, which the Dark Season EP, that's out now if you want to check that out and expect some more. So yeah,
All
I
right.
think
With
that's
that,
it. I think that's it.
I think it's good. We'll go.
I
Anything
think
else?
that's it.
I'll harass them later, and everything will be in the description below. All right, guys. Until next time. Thanks for watching. See you later.